Hi team, this video is specially made for those who are preparing for the PMP exam. I know there's a lot of questions being asked. How do I remember all the 5 life cycles, 10 knowledge area and the 49 process areas, including all the inputs, tools and techniques and output? That's a lot to learn, a lot to remember, isn't it? Use PMBOK guide as a reference, nothing more than that. Right? So go through all the PMBOK guide, revise through, but do not attempt to memorize it. But instead refer to some good books. I would strongly, personally recommend Rita or Mulcahy's book. Try that. That's a fantastic book. Also use a lot of simulation. The secret behind this is all about simulation. Practice with all the exam questions, test questions, until you get yourself at least 3 consecutive times of achieving more than 80% passing mark. Then I think you are ready. So I have prepared, in my case, for my students, a slide that helps them to remember all the 5 life cycle, 10 knowledge area and the 49 process areas. And hopefully it benefits you too. So let's start. But before going there, let me just advise you, use whichever method that's comfortable for you. Some participants love memorizing. So if you are good at memorizing, go ahead with memorizing technique. But some participants love, when they convert a project, the entire as a storyboard or as a storytelling. Right? That's another technique. Or we can also use color codes to differentiate each one of the process areas, knowledge areas, and also the life cycles. We can also use mnemonics to remember. We can also use rhyming method to remember our story. Or you can also use pegging system. But the key thing is this. When you want to try to remember this, try to make it, or whenever you are trying to use visual, make it funny, make it sexy, make it very colorful, and make it dramatic as well, because emotion plays a very important role in your memory. This is a method that I have developed. And in fact, if you want to use this technique in your, any other area in your office, or even some trainers might be here, if you are using these techniques that I'm using, please quote, or please, this is a copyright of MyPMGenie. So therefore, please quote MyPMGenie whenever you are using these techniques of remembering for the project management. Yeah. So let's start. First, let's start with the basic one, the 5 life cycles. How I recommend people to remember this is just remember the 5 basic elements of the universe. Right? So I hope you know what is the 5 basic elements of universe. Let's go through that. These are the 5: space, air, fire, water, and the earth. And if you really look at it, it goes in sequence. It starts with the space, which is basically nothing there, right? I mean, can you visualize what's there? Right? So you can't see what is in space. Next, after space comes the sky or the air. Right? So that's, blue sky they call it, right? So blue sky. And once after, the sky, the next one is your earth. This is where the actual firefighting, when it comes to project, is all here. When you're talking about war is always on the land. Right? So I call it a fire. So in order for you to stop the fire, you need to have water. Yeah. So that's the water element. And finally, when the war is over, there might be a lot of deaths. Yeah, and a lot of soldiers being, killed and so on. And they'll be lying on the ground, on the earth. Right? How do we relate this to the project life cycle? So here is this. So use the color code something like this. So space is a very gray area, right? So use a color code gray, right? So gray color. So because the reason is, when we start a project, we do not know anything. It's a gray area, and in the space is nothing. So we are just starting the project. So therefore, there is not much of information that's available. And that's basically is a gray. And if you look at sky blue, there are some clarity. It's a clear sky, they call it, right? So because there's some clarity, so usually clarity you will get it once you have done your planning stage of your project, right? So just remember, planning is blue color, and planning, you have clarity of your project. The third one, as I mentioned, you are already in your earth and you are already firefighting. You are fighting in projects. There's issues, there's risk, there's a lot of conflicts between resources. You are fighting for the deadline, you are fighting for the 6 constraints. So because we are fighting, we use the orange, right, for the execution. And earlier I mentioned, in order for you to fight this fire, you need to have water. Water is more for fighting this fire. So therefore, for monitoring and controlling the fire or the execution phase, we use blue color, right? So ocean blue is the color code for monitoring and control. And finally, in projects, we do post-mortems, right? And of course, the word post-mortem, usually we refer to dead bodies. Yeah, so earlier I mentioned soldiers, when they are dead after a war and so on, they go back to the earth again. So earth is brownish in color, so therefore we use brown color code in order for us to remember the closing phase. Yeah, so that's pretty easy, I'm sure. Right, now let's go to the other part, which is the 10 knowledge area. 10 knowledge area, I've also came out with a different color code. There are 10 color codes here. How do I remember all of these 10 color codes now? So now let me tell you a story. Yeah, and there's a lot of story involved in these 10 color codes. Just visualize. Maybe you can close your eyes and visualize as I tell the story for this. First of all, you notice integration, I chose white color. Why white color? Right, simply because if you combine all the colors, you will get white. Right, so white is basically a combination of all colors. And similarly, if you look at all the 10 knowledge areas, combination of all 10 knowledge areas are basically the 9 knowledge area, they are planning, right? So all of these sub-plan documents that you actually came up with, you need to consolidate into one master project plan. So that's part of the integration, isn't it? So integrating all of this will come out with a master project plan. So therefore, we use white color to indicate that this is a combination of all the other knowledge areas, right? So that's white. Second one, scope. I use brown color. Why? Okay, I want to tell you a story. I love coffee. I drink lots of coffee. I drink about 6 to 10 cups per day, right? So even if before going to bed, I actually drink 1 cup of coffee before going to bed, right? Some people say, the moment they drink 1 cup of coffee, they can't go to sleep. But for me, it's the opposite. I can go to sleep. There's no effect on me until certain time, until last year, 2019, where as we grow old, it has an impact, right? Whatever we eat, whatever we consume has an impact. So this coffee actually heated up my stomach, and it was pretty bad. I started having diarrhea. Yeah, you can visualize diarrhea. That's a brown color. And I went to the hospital. I couldn't take it, right? So the doctor actually checked on me, and then they put colonoscopy as well as endoscopy on me, right? So endoscopy is through the mouth. Colonoscopy, of course, they put it through the rear, and they'll start scanning through your stomach. All right, what is the impact? It's pretty bad impact at that time, and of course, when they went through, it was all they showed me in the TV kind of thing. It's all brownish in color. Yeah, the stomach brownish and also red color. Yeah, so those are my stools actually, because it's part of the scanning, right? Why am I saying all of this disgusting stuff now? The reason is I just want you to visualize that whenever you do endoscopy or colonoscopy, is basically brownish in color, right? So because I use the word endoscopy and also colonoscopy, so we refer to the scope, right, as brown color. That's pretty easy, right? So that's why I said whenever you visualize something and make it dramatic, you are able to remember these color codes, right? So just remember, brown color refers to scope, which is endoscopy, colonoscopy, and so on, right? Now next one is the schedule. Schedule, I use 3 colors there. RAG, red, amber, green, which is a traffic light indicator, right? Now whenever you are doing schedule, wouldn't you update your bosses the status of your schedule? Are we on track? Are we behind schedule? Are we behind schedule by certain percentage, or are we really behind schedule? Right, so that's the green, which is healthy, which amber, which is, there's a certain threshold or tolerance level of, that we are behind schedule, and red color means we are really behind schedule. Right, so we use this traffic light indicator to represent schedule. Yeah, just remember the RAG, red, amber and green. Now whenever we talk about money, we always refer to wealth. And wealth is the usual color is always gold in color, right? So visualize gold whenever you are doing a project, whenever you need to issue, you have to make some payments for your vendor, you are paying through gold, not money, not through checks or bank transfers. Right? Just visualize that you're actually handing over gold to your vendors. Yeah, related to cost management. Next one, whenever we talk about environment, trees, all right, something pure, something, if you take a look at a lot of organization which is related to environment, the color code is actually green, right? And if you look at quality, we always refer to this color as well, green. And next one, notice resource management, there are so many colors there. That's a rainbow color, right? Rainbow has 7 colors, right? So why am I using rainbow for resource management? Because a resource that you have in your project brings upon them multiple characters, right? They bring home their problems from home, and it might affect your office work, it might affect your project work. There are also different ways of managing resources, right? There are Gen Y, Gen X, right? Millennials. And then we have male, female. Male communicates differently from female. And then you have what else? Various combinations, races. And then we have geographical location. One person working in Japan might communicate differently from the person who is working in Australia. Right? So all of these permutations, as a project manager, you have to handle all of these characters. Right? And all the problems that they bring to your project work. Right? So because of all of this combination of characters, so that's why we use a rainbow color, rainbow of characters. Yeah, so just remember, rainbow refers to human or resources, resource management. Next one is communication. Why am I using red? Alright, so just visualize ladies within your team members, because guys don't use it. Right, so here it refers to the lipstick. Alright, so lipstick is your lips. You actually use this for communication, right, for talking. So just visualize a person or your boss who is a lady who is talking and she's wearing a very thick lipstick. Don't make it too light. Visualize like crazy that she's using a very thick red lipstick, and whenever she speaks, it might be spitting red color as well. Yeah, so just visualize the red refers to the lipstick and she talks through the lips, right? So that's a communication management for you. Next one, risk. Whenever people refer to the risk, we always use toxic colors, and toxic we usually use gray color or black color, either one of these. So risk color is gray, yeah, dark gray, which stands for risk. Next one, procurement, is an interesting one. It's an orange color. Why? All right, depending on the culture, right? Depending on the culture, depending on the country, procurement, we deal with external people, external vendors, suppliers. All right, there is a tendency of corrupt practice in procurement. Tendency, I'm not saying it will be there, but most of the ethical issue that happens in project is along this line, procurement, right? So when a vendor tries to bribe you, when a vendor tries to ask for favor from you, all of these are ethical issues. And if you get caught taking bribes, for example, you might end up in jail. So visualize people who are actually in jail wearing orange uniforms, right? So visualize the orange uniform with procurement, because it somehow is, somehow is related, right? So visualize from that story angle. And the last one, and the interesting one, is stakeholders. These are all the people who expect a lot from you for the project, right? And there's a lot of personalities involved. You have to look after them. If they are negative stakeholders, you have to make sure they convert into a positive stakeholder. This positive stakeholders, you have to make sure that they always continuously support your project, right? So now these people needs to be treated like royal people. Yeah, so royal color. By the way, purple is a royal color, right? If you really read or if you really do a Google on this color, purple, there's no such thing as a purple. Until, you know, in the 20th century, we started coming up with the paint, purple paint, right? So then it was introduced, this particular color. Otherwise, it's a very rare item and not worn by commoners. So that's why I chose purple, because stakeholders are like the royalties. We need to really take care of them. Yeah, so you can pause the video now if you want to, and I want you to go through this 10 knowledge area and try to recall each one of this color. Alright, so remember the sequence, just make sure that you are in the sequence as well. Alright, earlier I was I covered two parts, right, which is the one is the life cycle, the other one would be the 10 knowledge area. Right, so expanding upon that, now let's talk about how shall we remember and recall the 49 process areas. So this might be going through storytelling, right? So let's go through this. But first of all, remember the 5 life cycles and the 10 knowledge areas. So what you do is you arrange it this way, and you can notice the one on the top there. Can see gray color. Remember, gray is the initiation, so it's basically a space, so there's nothing, we do not know anything, so it's a gray area, right? So that's the initiation. And then comes sky blue, and third one is execution is orange, and to monitor and control whatever you execute, that's the blue color, right? Ocean blue. And the last one is the earth, which is the brown color. Right, so that's the 5 life cycles. On the left hand side, you notice the 10 areas, 10 knowledge areas. So remember the various color and what is its meaning. So try to recall and practice these colors so that it's easier for you to remember those colors. All right. Now in between here, we have to remember the 49 process areas, right? So how shall we remember this? So let's go through some simple steps that I can suggest, and again practice this, and once you practice the storytelling, then you can actually remember these 49 process areas. Next is, remember this, under initiation you have 2 process areas, under planning you have 24 process areas, under execution you have 10 process areas, under monitor control there's 12 of them, under closing there's only 1 process areas. Right, so remember this number as well, 2, 24, 10, 12, 1. Right, so that's the first step. Next step is the 2 under initiation, there's 1 under integration, there is 1 under stakeholder management, and then under closing there is 1 process area which is under integration. And then I marked there 3 X's, which stands for, you know, these 3 areas we are not going to utilize, or these 3 boxes we are not going to utilize. So this is the basic one, very simple. How do we know what are those? So remember this, under initiation, there's only 2 things that you need to do. You need to come up with a charter, you need to identify the stakeholders, and then when it comes to closing, we just have to close the project. Now let's go to the next one. The next way of remembering the 49 process area is this. Notice this. Every single planning phase, there is a plan. Right? And you notice if you are in scope management plan, you need to come up with plan scope management. If you are in schedule management, you need to come up with plan schedule management. If you are in cost management, you need to plan cost management. And every single one of them, it will precede with the word plan, with the exception of integration, because at the end of the day, all of these 9 plan documents, we have to integrate them into one master project management plan. Yeah, so that's easy to remember, right? So every single component, every single knowledge area, there is a plan that you need to develop. All right, let's go next one. The next one is, you see the keyword on top there that I put there, seek project managers, right? So that's a clue, that's a hint for you. Seek project managers, which basically just a hint to say that, or rhyming word for, there are 6 process area which has the word manage in it. Alright, and how do you remember, where do you put all of this, the word manage? Just remember the next rhyming word. There are 2 white elephants in green forest, and they met humans wearing red clothes. They look like royalties, and that's a rhyming word, right? So just practice on this rhyming word. 2 white elephants, 2 white elephants. So here it refers to white, 2 white. White here refers to integration, and you notice there's 2 process area using the word manage over there, right? So that's 2 white elephants. In the green forest, remember green, actually you can recall it stands for quality management. So here there's another word manage there, manage quality under quality. Next one is they met humans. Humans, remember, it's actually part of the rainbow color. So rainbow, there is an option called manage team. And wearing red clothes, red obviously refers to the communication, right? So manage communication. And the last one, it says they look like royalties. Remember, royalty, the color is purple. And here there is an option, process area called manage stakeholder engagement. Alright, so just use this rhyming word for you to be easily recall and remember these phrases or the process areas. The next thing that you got to remember is this rhyming word. ADIC, or basically is ADIC. Maybe you can come up with this word. America, don't irritate China. Right, with all of this COVID-19 and all of these, arguments between the both of these countries. Yeah, so let's come up with this rhyming word. America, don't irritate China. All right. So, and you can also remember this another phrase. 2 American people are in danger of being jailed. All right. 2 American people. All right. So that's talking about people. That's basically, remember, people stands for rainbow, and it says two American people. So basically there are 2 areas in that resource management. In the danger, so danger refers to toxic, which refers to risk management. Of being jailed, jail refers to orange color, right? So because it's procurement, yeah. So that's easy way of remembering. So that's the balance of the word. Let's go through this. 2 Americans. Alright, so that's human beings. So 2 American talks about acquire resources. It talks about develop team. And then it talks about danger. So that's implement risk response. And being jailed, it talks about procurement. Right, conduct procurement. That's why I use the word ADIC. ADIC. A stands for acquire. D stands for develop. I stands for implement, C stands for conduct procurement. Right? So try to recall and remember these practices and fill up those boxes in those areas as well. Let's go to the next one. Victory for mankind. We for M. We for M. Victory for mankind. Alright, so try to remember this, quite disgusting, but it's okay. We just want to be imaginative and be creative in our imagination. So it says, Alice feces found in the white gown of the Red Queen. She is in danger of infection. Alright, so that's also pretty disgusting though, but then it just makes your imagination go wild. Disgusting is also part of an emotion, right? So let's go through this. Victory for mankind. We, right? We stands for victory, but here we are now in monitor control. It goes to validate scope. Alright? So remember Alice feces. Feces is brown color, right? So it's it's under scope management. Next one is white gown. right? So white gown, white here refers to integration management. So there is 4M. M here refers to the word monitor. There are 4 words which has the word monitor in it. So what are those 4 M's? First one is under integration, white gown, which is monitor and control project works. The next monitor is under red queen, right? So red queen is part of monitor communication. And she's in danger of being infected. Danger is again a risk management. So there you go, you have monitor risk. Yeah. And there is also a monitor stakeholder engagement, right? Why stakeholder engagement? Because there's a queen there, right? So these are the 4 monitor that you got to remember, right? 4 words monitor and followed by the V for validate. All right, next one. Now you have to remember the 7 C's, and you can come up with a storyline something like this. I was standing at a traffic light eating brownies. Suddenly, a man with green teeth and wearing a white cap poked a knife and demanded for my gold chain. I threw my orange juice on his face and ran. Alright, so come up with a more emotional, creative storyline, right? But just remember all the keywords there. It's because 7C, that's why the storyline is quite a long one. You got a traffic there, right? So you know there's a traffic light indicator. Traffic light indicator is scheduling. Alright, brownies, you know what it is. Brown is scope management. A man, which is a human resource, right? So that's human. Green, you know there's a quality there. White, there's an integration there. Gold, you know there's a cost there. Orange, there is a procurement there. Alright, so you create a storyline based on these process areas. Alright, so what are those 7 C? C stands for what? C stands for control. Right, so let's see under monitor control, how many controls are there? First of all, you have the white, which is perform integrated change control, and then you have control scope, you have control schedule, you have control cost, you have control quality, you have control resources, you have control, what else? Procurement, control procurement. So these are the 7 C's that are available, right? So easy so far, right? So far you can take it, so far you can remember. If you not, just go through this video again and replay it again so that you can remember them. Alright, next one, after 7 C's. Now let's come to planning. Right, so planning, let's use this word play CD twice. CD, play CD twice. Alright, so and you can use the word to remember, yeah? Found 3 brownies at the traffic light. 3 brownies, right? So brown is basically talks about scope management. There are 3 items that you got to fill up there, 3 brownies. So what are those? So you have collect requirement, define scope, create WBS. And then it says at the traffic light. So traffic light is basically talking about schedule management. So there is one process called define activities there. Our next phrase that you can remember is this. Spider-Man eats duck and enjoys drumstick. Right, so that's the keyword that you got to remember. Spider-Man eats duck and enjoys drumstick. And the phrase that you got to remember is at the traffic light. So I think you got the hint there. Traffic light is schedule management. That's right. 3 eggs were laid by 2 golden geese. 3 eggs were laid by 2 golden geese. So what are those? So under traffic light, so there's 3 of them extra there, which is sequence activity, estimate activity duration, and develop the schedule. And then the next one, it says by 2 golden geese. So gold is referring to the cost management, and the balance cost management that you have to fill up is estimate the cost and determine the budget. Alright, now let's go to the next one, how to remember things. Resource has years. Now, that's very easy. A resource, right? It's pretty straightforward. So we are talking about resource management. Has years. EAR. Estimate activity resources. Right? So that's the process area for remembering the resource under planning. Next one. Now let's talk about the risk management. Iron Man packed pasta from Paris. So the keyword that you can remember is Fantastic Four is in danger. Alright, so let's talk about this. Fantastic Four is in danger. Fantastic Four. So there are 4 process areas. In danger is risk management. So let's talk about which one are those. Identify risk, qualitative risk analysis, perform quantitative risk analysis, and plan risk response. These are the 4. Alright, so that's the total of 49 process areas. Are you able to recall all of them? You won't be able to do it immediately, right? So this requires practice. So there you go. How was it? Pretty easy to recall and remember compared to reading through the materials and trying to memorize all of these 5 life cycles, 10 knowledge area, and the 49 process area. Now it's more visual, yeah, more easier for you to remember. Instead of taking weeks or even months for you to remember all of this, I just give you a technique where you can remember in just not even days, just 3 to 5 repetitions, right, of this exercise. Yeah. And by the way, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to use it for your own training or if you want to use it within your organization, feel free to do so. But for all the effort that I put in researching this particular technique, please quote as part of this, when you are using these materials, please quote MyPMGenie as a copyright, right? So that it gives a credit, due credit to the author as well. Yeah. So having said that, I do conduct PMP bootcamps, 5 days program. So if you can imagine, it won't be just downloading of data and information onto your brain. Instead, we'll go more creative. Right, I'm known for my fun way of doing my trainings, my creative ways of doing my trainings. I always receive more than 90% client or customer satisfaction, right, in all my trainings. So you can just imagine how effective the training would be. So if you are looking for PMP trainings, email me here, neru@mypmgenie.com. And I'll send you the training outlines and my methods of conducting the trainings and the date as well when we are planning to have the training. It'll be more of a virtual training through Zoom or WebEx or Microsoft Teams or whichever method, or Google Meet. So feel free to email me. And at the same time, one more thing is this. Don't just focus on the 5 days training and think that you can go for the exam, right? That's not the right method. The right method is after the 5 days of preparation training, you need to coach yourself. You got to have some sort of a discipline, self-discipline. All right, go through the studies again, revise the materials again. And the way I do it is after the 5 days, I will give my participants 5 weeks of coaching. Yeah, that's a complimentary. And for each one of these 5 weeks, I'll give them some materials to read. I'll give them exam simulation question as well. Yeah, for the 5 weeks, I divide into the 5 weeks and go through all of these simulation questions, and also the marathon 200 question as well, so that your body and your mind are used to the actual exam scenario. So if you're excited, if you are interested in the PMP training, feel free to email to neru@mypmgenie. I'll catch up with you later then.